Sometimes it's just time to cut ties. And in Dynasty, trade conversations are happening around the clock, 365 days a year, pretty much with the exclusion of your deadlines. But maybe with these players, you just aren't ready to let go of them yet. I mean, my goodness, right? They've done so much for you in the past years. We are here to tell you that it is time. It is okay to let go of these handful of players. I'm Corey, that's Wally. We're here to help you win in 2025 and beyond with fantasy football. And separating heart from brain here, I am a Bears fan if you guys have followed this channel for a while. DeAndre Swift, we're selling high on him, as high as we can sell on him. Partially due to a shorter shelf life than most other positions. Running backs are extremely replaceable in 2025. A lot of them are running out of those 2 platoon systems, or you hear the phrase running back by committee. Unfortunately for DeAndre, he did not do much to protect himself from that trend. 3.8 yards per carry, yards before contact, brutal. I totally get that. Offensive line for the Bears was a laughingstock this year. Yards after contact, though, outside of the top 70. The guy was second in the league behind Joe Mixon for tackle for loss yards, outside of the top 40 for broken tackles. And this is someone who started every single game for the Bears. Here's a stat for you. He broke 7 tackles all year. Tyjae Spears, who had a third of DeAndre Swift's touches on the ground, he was in the 80s, broke more tackles than DeAndre Swift. So while Corey, maybe he's just more of an explosive back. He's not going to power through defenders. He wasn't. He had 5 rushes of 20 or more yards. That is just outside of the top 20 as well. So not sure if it's Ashton Genty in the draft this year, an internal promotion like a Roschon Johnson or someone else. I would be absolutely shocked, baffled, honestly, if DeAndre Swift got the same amount of workload this year that he did last year.
I'm happy you brought up Roschon Johnson because I do think he's going to be a big part of it. Why? I think the Bears offense as a whole is going to take a huge step this year. And ironically, Sweat might be the only guy that doesn't take that step with them. Yeah. Corey, I think that's a great pick. Unfortunately, I got to pick one of my favorite players in the entire NFL here. And you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm saying Josh Jacobs. And I'm going to start with this because he has 268 carries a year over the course of his career, 38 catches a year. That's over 300 touches per year for a guy that is 27. You mentioned just a moment ago, running backs have the shortest lifespan out of all these positions in the NFL, and they're pretty easy to replace. We see how loaded this running back class is in the NFL. So to me, like many of these trade discussions, there's not a blanket scenario for everybody. Josh Jacobs is a beast. If you're in a position where your window's closing, maybe you have 1 year that you feel like you have a chance to win it all, this isn't for you. This isn't the move off. But if you're the type of guy or your team is like, I'm probably not going to compete this year, but I can see out there is a team that might be a running back away. You can get a haul for a guy like this, and you're going to be able to set yourself up for the future because this guy is probably not going to be the elite running back that he was in 2 or 3 years when you're able to get back to that competitor, that contender in your league. The Packers haven't addressed weapons outside for Jordan Love again. So Josh Jacobs will probably get a hefty workload. But don't be surprised if the Packers take a late day 2, early day 3 running back to try to help him out, take some of that stress off his shoulders. For me, I think Josh Jacobs probably takes a slight step back this year. So right now, it feels like if you're ever going to move off him, this is the time to do it. You will be able to get a haul. Just make sure that you're in the right position to make a trade like this.
That's a really good pick. Like, the title of this video is based off of selling high. These guys, some of them are not going to fall off a cliff. And you're not making the claim that Josh Jacobs will fall off a cliff. You made a ton of great points there. And I think something to really focus on, too, is a couple years ago when he had his career year in Vegas, he took a significant step back the next year because wear and tear exists entirely. Now, the Packers will probably rely on the run a decent amount. He is that bell cow. But whether it's, getting someone in day 2 or throwing Emmanuel Wilson up there, I think Dynasty is a great time to bring up the question that people hear in job interviews all the time. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You can ask yourself that with these players. Or where do you see yourself in 3 years? Josh Jacobs in 5 years is probably not in the league, and he's definitely not a starting running back in 5 years. So if you're making a long-term move, it's crazy to say that about a 27-year-old player, but that is definitely the case with running backs. So let's shift over to quarterback. I know you're an advocate for this one. Sam Darnold, we're going to sell, again, about as high as we possibly can. This one's not rocket science. You could probably skip the next 40 seconds here and predict exactly what I'm going to say, but I'll say it anyway. If you can find someone in desperate need of a quarterback or quarterback depth, Darnold is coming off of a career year. His environment changed a little bit. He is no longer throwing to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and Aaron Jones out of the backfield, and he is not working directly in coalition with Kevin O'Connell. He will have JSN, one of my favorite receivers in the league right now, and he's going to work with an offense that's likely going to have to throw the ball around a bit, assuming that their current 7.5 projected win total is semi-accurate. They're going to be working from behind a decent amount. This guy's not going to have one of the best offensive support systems anymore, though. It's not even close to what he had. Offensive line is putrid at the moment, and because of that, he's not going to have a career year again. I will gladly leave this out there to be clipped if he proves me wrong.
Oh, absolutely. And he'll prove me wrong, too. You mentioned it. I'm like the biggest Sam Darnold hater out there in the world. And he seems like a nice enough guy, but he's going to be playing behind an offensive line where you and I are blocking for him. And it just isn't the recipe for success for him. DK Metcalf's out the door. I'm very, very, very much with you. Sell as high as you possibly can on Sam Darnold. I think his time in the sunshine is over, so to speak.
Yeah.
And speaking of sunshine, go down and look at that Sunshine State, Florida. Jonnu Smith, 4th most targets last year, 4th most catches last year, 4th most yards last year, 2nd in touchdowns. Tyreek Hill's in trouble again. Why am I selling? Why is Wally doing this? Because last year was an anomaly when you look at his body of work over his career. He's going to be 30 when next season starts. He's had 1 year prior to 2024 where he eclipsed 500 yards, and he barely did it that season. Mm-hmm. So last year, he had a monster month in the middle of the year where he had 3 straight games averaging over 10 yards or 10 receptions a game, over 100 yards per game, touchdowns in each game. So beyond that little stretch, he kind of had a forgettable season. He was under 500 in the other 14 games of the year. He had, for whatever reason, a really good connection with Snoop Huntley, but he averaged about 6 catches and 60 yards a game when Tua was the signal caller and a little less than half a touchdown. And that includes the career game where he torched my lifeless Raiders, the defense without Max Crosby or a pulse for that, mind you. I don't believe that he can duplicate this career year again. So for me, this is where you try to find anybody who disagrees with me, thinks that this was just an emergence. One of the rare times a guy in his 8th season in the league is able to figure it out. I don't buy it. So for me, I'm selling as high as I can on this and wishing him luck. And like you said, hopefully he proves me wrong.
There's a reason, regardless of position, that Jonnu Smith gets so much press now. Like, what happened with him is very rare. He spent almost a decade pretty much on the bench and then came out again and looks like a solid NFL starter and has essentially revived his career. I don't know the last time we've seen something like that happen with tight ends, so I'm going to go with your option as well, that this is a one-off year. Not bringing up the fantasy team for the sake of doing it, but I'm looking at my Dynasty squad right now. It's Brock Bowers, George Kittle, and Jonnu Smith, just based off the waiver wire pickup there with Smith, because he exploded. And at that point, he was up there scoring with those two guys. He was up there right with Brock Bowers, right there with George Kittle as a mainstay, as a top 5 tight end for the back end of last year because of that big month that he had. You're selling him out of those 3 because those other guys, obviously Brock Bowers is in a great spot, and we'll talk about him in a different video. Not a whole lot of target competition in a relatively pass-heavy offense and had a monster rookie year, and George Kittle has a much thicker body of work. You're able to look back year over year over year and go, this guy's a model of consistency. Jonnu Smith right now, until proven otherwise, is a one-off year. So I like that you brought that up. This next one is Zach Ertz, Washington Commanders tight end, 34 years old. It's kind of a niche move. If you have tight end depth, move off of him. If he is your best tight end, do not move off of him and kind of worry about this position later this year. He had an impressive year, but in Dynasty, 34-year-old tight ends, unless your name is Travis Kelce, and I believe he's 35, not really the move here. You want to start to offload these guys that are in the twilight phases of their career. Now, why is he sellable? Because he is a productive tight end, and there are not a whole lot of those out there right now. Ertz was tight end 7 last year, one of just a handful to average over 10 fantasy points per game in standard PPR. Extremely tough to find. If you can find a suitor in your league who is truly just looking for production in 2025, it's no secret, right? Awesome. But if you have a Trey McBride or a Tucker Kraft or another tight end that has long-term upside, we are wasting space by housing Zach Ertz here. He's on a 1-year, $6 million contract right now. The Commanders are not financially tied to him long term. This could literally be his last year in the National Football League. So let someone else enjoy it as long as you have a backup plan at tight end.
Oh, that's a smart move. At this stage, you're right. When you get to the point where you have these tight ends reach a certain point of their careers, if you can find someone who's talking themselves into the past, being that Zach Ertz was the guy, maybe he can do it again. If you can find that guy out in your league, get a decent return. You're not going to get a haul, but you're going to be able to get a decent return for it. This is the time to make that move. So I couldn't agree more with you there, Corey.
And he doesn't have a lot of competition at the tight end position in Washington right now, too. So I truly think this might be the last time that you can get something for Zach Ertz. But again, if he's your best tight end, don't do it. Like, don't just clean house in Dynasty right now. I would not suggest that. But these are players that you should be selling high on right now. The draft is going to mix some things up, I'm sure. So maybe you want to do it before that, but I understand a lot of your league mates probably aren't operating with a ton of urgency in early April, so maybe sneak that move in there afterwards or start the conversation now, because all of these guys should see a dip in value in 2025. I'm Corey, that's Wally. This is Armchair Fantasy Football, helping you win in 2025 and beyond. We will catch you in the next video.